What is your workload of all your classes? Do you ever think you wish you chose a different degree? So my workload is pretty hefty. Hey guys, welcome back to another NYU Q&A. For those of you who are new, my name is Mia and I am currently a sophomore at NYU. I'm in Tisch and I'm majoring in film and television production. A couple weeks ago, I asked on YouTube on this channel for you guys to ask me some questions and we're just gonna go through them. I'm gonna try and answer as many as I can, hopefully all of them except for the ones that are kind of repeated. I'm just gonna start from the top. This is a loaded comment. First of all, what camera do you use to vlog? So I am currently filming on a Sony a6400. How many of your classes or what percentage of your workload is related to film and the arts? Freshman year in film, the classes were most planned out there. You didn't have as much flexibility with what you could take. That one I had 5 classes a semester. 3 of them were film and then 2 of them weren't. So one was a gen ed and one was this class called writing the essay, which every freshman has to take both semesters at NYU, except the only difference is if you're in Tisch, you're in a different writing the essay class only with Tisch students that's more arts based. But then now as a sophomore, I get to pick all of my classes really. This last semester I took 5 classes and 4 of them were film and 1 was a gen ed. And then this semester coming up I'm taking 4 classes because the 5th one last semester was just a safety class. This semester coming up in the spring I'm taking 4 classes, 3 are film and 1 is a gen ed. What was your high school portfolio like? I went to a magnet art school where I got to do film half the day after public school, which was really great. I actually have an older video before I went into NYU my freshman year where I kind of break down my portfolio and my stats or everything, so I'll have that link down below. The main short film that I applied to Tisch with was this one. It's called Moth is Not a Nerd and I made that for my NYU application. I'll link that down below too if you want to watch. And then I had a couple awards from small film festivals that I had submitted to when I was in high school. Was NYU your top pick? Yes, NYU was my dream school since I was 10. How much do you pay for food? Freshman year I lived in the dorm and I was required to have the meal plan, which I don't remember how much it was, but I do remember every time you would swipe your ID to go in, it was almost $14 or $15 for lunch and dinner for each meal swipe, and I used to hate that because sometimes you go in and you get a grilled cheese or something and it'd be $15. You can go out to eat sometimes and get something that you want and it's less than $15. So this semester I live in a dorm with a kitchen and I don't have a meal plan at all. I shop at Trader Joe's for my weekly groceries and I probably spend about $50 a week. Favorite class, favorite professor. It's hard to choose a favorite professor, but I just uploaded the breakdown of my TV final and I talked about that's TV, so Sight and Sound Studio, because you have to take 2 Sight and Sounds and people usually do them their sophomore year. So I did Sight and Sound Studio this past fall. It was my first one, but that is my favorite class I've taken at NYU so far. It was so much fun. I think his 2-second close-ups would probably be intro to animation and then stop motion, but Sight and Sound Studio was so fun. My professor was Ronnie K and she's so sweet. What's your commute like? If I walk to class it's about 25 minutes. Then I think a subway or bus ride is closer to 12. I was living in NYU, especially compared to California. It's so different. I grew up as a military brat, so I've never lived anywhere for more than 4 years, which I think has made the transition a little bit better or even different for me than a lot of people who grew up in one place, because I'm so used to moving around so much. Going to NYU is just another stop. Since I am in California now, it's so different because obviously the weather, but my favorite thing about New York, which I think really separates it from everywhere else, is the walking culture, because everybody walks there. It's not as common or normal to have a car and it's just so convenient to be able to walk anywhere. If you walk to a Target in the suburbs, it would only be cars passing you and everyone would probably be staring at you. So favorite movie? I don't know. That's always a hard question. I don't even remember what my Letterboxd top 4 is. I don't know if I can answer favorite movie. That's so hard. But I do have Letterboxd, which I need to start using more. How does sophomore year compare to freshman year? Honestly, I am loving sophomore year so much more than freshman year already. I think it's a lot better because freshman year is really exciting because everything's new and you're moving out of the house for the first time and going to college and meeting new people. But what I love about sophomore year is knowing who my friends are and like who I want to be around, getting to live with my best friends and kind of knowing the city better, so it feels more like I really live there now and less just like a freshman college student. It's just nice to be like a little bit more acquainted with everything and even the school. Is it a friendly environment and are you having a good time? I think it's a friendly environment. There's so many people at NYU and so many different types of people. I definitely think you can like find your people there, even if that has to be through like joining clubs or the different classes you take or even where you're living. I think it's super fun and I think it's friendly. Do you ever get creative block, and if so, how do you get past it? Bro, I get creative block a lot. When I'm in New York, even what this comment is saying about like doing so much in each video, I'm always like going all the time. So a lot of the times I don't even really have time to think. Even if I do have creative blocks, which I kind of faced with my TV final when it like time started coming up to write the script and start preparing, it's like I didn't really have an idea that I loved and I kind of wasn't even fully set on the idea I went with, but it was that time and that deadline that was like forcing me to go. And I also think if you're really busy and you're doing a lot of like creative stuff, and even with like making YouTube videos or doing stuff for my stop motion class or drawing or painting, having like all of these different things that I'm doing, they each give me ideas for the next thing, and it's just nice to kind of break it up. So if it's really bad and it's for film specifically, I get a lot of inspiration from watching new movies or reading books. Some of these questions I kind of already answered, but what advice would you give a senior in high school planning to apply to college and live alone? I would say for college applications to start early and to break it up so that you don't have to rush and do it all in like 2 days, because that's stressful and it probably won't turn out as good as you would hope. And then also if you break up the college applications, then you could do like an hour or like a little bit every day and then like have time to really refine it and work on it. At the very beginning before applying, I would make a list of all of your colleges and your top colleges and the deadlines and then what each college requires for the application. Living alone in general, I think it's such a different experience for every person, and so I don't know if there's anything that can like really prepare you for what you'll learn from that, except to be honest with others and like honest with yourself and who you are and what you want. Even like if it's something small, like whether or not you're a person who likes to go out on the weekends or whether you like to spend your weekends inside doing whatever, watching movies, going to bed early. So like I think just like little things like that, for example, just being honest with yourself. Does the lack of traditional college social activities like school spirit and football games make you wish you attended another school? Or are you happy at NYU despite not having those things? I think the main reason I went to NYU is because I didn't want that traditional college experience. I didn't want to live in a more like suburban area, and I love the city life and I love being around all of this stuff, and it definitely makes you feel a lot more independent and it makes you feel like you're growing up, I guess, a lot faster. But me and a lot of my friends do talk about sometimes how we wish we had like traditional, even like sports games to go to with everyone, or even just like parties where you go and you know it's gonna be everyone that you're like that's the same age as you and that you have classes with, because a lot of times at NYU it can be hard to have like a big gathering like that, like going out scene where it's just people that you're in school with, because since it's a city, everyone either does like small apartment things or goes out to bars or just places, and you're really just like intertwined with literally everyone else who lives in the city, so it's not really NYU specific. What is your workload of all your classes? Do you ever think you wish you chose a different degree? So my workload is it's like pretty hefty. I don't ever wish that I chose a different degree though, because film is just like what I want to do and it's what I love, and I just love making art. I really couldn't imagine myself doing something else, and I know that it can be definitely a different, scarier career path to go on because it can go so many different ways and no one has a traditional path with the art field or film industry. But I would be so regretful if I settled with something else, so never settle. What image or what film made you realize and say, I want to do that, I want to do film? I first decided that I wanted to do film when I was like 10 years old. I made an American Girl stop motion because I was trying to get one of my school counselors to put on this like Christmas fundraiser thing, and I don't think it ever happened but I like scheduled it. I had like a meeting with her and she was like, yeah, this is great, but make me a presentation. And so I made the presentation, and this was like the era of like the AGSM, like American Girl stop motions on YouTube, and I used to love those. So I made this really bad one on my bed, but I put it into this slideshow to show her. I was never allowed to post on YouTube, and my dad let me post that on YouTube. And then that was when I was like, oh, I want to make like videos and short films. And I used to love watching Tim Burton movies back then too, so I would say that experience, and then like Tim Burton has always been my favorite director. Would you recommend going to college in New York City to someone who's from Europe? If so, what is your advice? I would say yes. I would honestly recommend like anyone from anywhere go, because there's so much diversity in New York and so many different people and so many people. I don't know what advice I would have specifically for an international student that is like really very different than what I would say to anyone else, except that if you want to go, just go. How much did you pay for NYU in the dorms and tuition fee? NYU tuition actually changes every year. The tuition fee, I'm guessing this is like application fee. I actually had my application fees waived for Common App because of the military, so. Do you know anyone in the journalism program / have you heard good things about it? Yes. Okay, so my roommate Tara, she was actually pre-med freshman year, but this school year, this like past semester, this fall, she transferred into journalism. I think she's really been loving it. It's obviously so different from pre-med. She goes out and she has to interview strangers a lot of the time and record and write these stories. I know she's had recording equipment. She's a part of the radio station. I think she loves it. I'm not sure if she's planning to stay in the major, but I think she's kind of like bouncing around a little bit, because kind of like art, I think journalism is something that you just learn by doing, and so some people might not want the degree in that. Otherwise, I think she's had like a pretty good time. Was it easy for you to make friends when you first started college? For the most part, it was pretty okay, because there's a lot of resources. I did get posted on one of those NYU class of whatever pages on Instagram where everyone kind of like posts and follows each other. I messaged people on there. That's actually how I met a lot of my close friends now. There's a lot of welcome week events too, where you go and just meet other freshmen. I think there's a lot of opportunities to meet people. It might take you a while to like figure out who your like close group of friends are gonna be, but if you put in the effort, I don't think it's too hard. What classes do you take and what types of projects do you have to do? I have taken a lot of different classes, gen eds. I've done like psychology ones, and I've done French, a Mediterranean studies one, so really like huge variety there. They have a lot of different film classes, so they kind of range from like all sorts of different things. Classes about sound, animation classes, stop motion, a producing class. I have done like acting strategies, directing the actor strategies, screenwriting classes. There's just so many different ones, and the projects I have to do all depend on the classes. So like for the screenwriting ones, I was assigned different screenplays to read. You obviously write a lot, and then you workshop with the whole class. Made lots of different films. I found with my animation classes especially, I would have weekly film assignments that I would have to make. They would usually be pretty short, 10-second ones, but it would take like a couple hours a week to make those. And then some of the other ones, you come up with like big final short films, and you do little short films leading up to it. How does your stop motion work now compared to your work on the timeless classic American Girl, It's All About the Money? I'm not sure if this person knows about that account. I don't even remember if that's like one that I made. Maybe I made that. I posted one of my little stop motions that I did for the end of the semester in my stop motion class this fall, and this vlog, I'd say, or at least I'd hope, it's improved a good amount. Are the classes spread around the city? Yeah, so NYU actually owns so much real estate in New York. It's kind of crazy how much money they have. But most of the classes are centered around Washington Square Park, and they kind of branch out off to Broadway and then up Fifth Ave and that general area. Some people have some in Soho or like near Astor Place. And then I know that they have a lot of like medical facilities that kind of stretch elsewhere. Are you planning to do an exchange year? Hopefully, yes. So most people, or at least like most of my friends, are going abroad junior year, so that is something that I'm hoping I can do, but we will see. I will keep you updated on that. Biggest tip for managing social life and schoolwork? This is something that I'm still working on. If you just find a schedule that works for you, I think maybe like prioritizing schoolwork during the school week and setting time aside to go to coffee shops or the library after classes and like get homework done, then I think it's easier to kind of like go out into the city on the weekends and do what you want fun if you've taken care of most of the homework during the week. I don't know. How hard is it to find housing at NYU? I never like thought it was that hard since I've been there since freshman year, but I've met a lot of people who were transfer students this year. Apparently, I guess like if you're a transfer student, it's a lot harder to find housing because the students who kind of already been in the system get first pick, or they already pick their housing when housing application time comes. I know a lot of transfer students have had to find apartments on their own, or for me, like I haven't had trouble yet. What do you use to edit your videos? I use Final Cut Pro. What's the social scene at NYU like? Kind of the same way where we don't have a traditional campus. Really, your like social scene or even school scene can be so different to anyone else. Everyone at NYU has such a different social scene. We have frat parties, but they're like not that big. Most people are not involved in Greek life, and a lot of people that are involved in Greek life at NYU, they're professional frats or sororities. But since there's so much to do in New York, it's like such a perfect place to hang out with friends and to always have stuff to do, even if it's just like walking around or going to a park. Didn't go into like some of the questions that kind of were repeated that I answered at the beginning. The last one that we're gonna end off with is book recommendation. So my favorite book, probably Memoirs of a Geisha. If you have a favorite director or favorite filmmaker in general, I think like buying their book would be really great just to learn more about them. Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. I read that last year, and that's one that like some of my professors have recommended reading too. I'm reading On Directing Film right now, which is just like a really dude, it's really short. And it's also, the text is really big, so that should be fast. I was in Barnes & Nobles with my grandma the other day, and we were like Christmas shopping, but I saw this really pretty book of the Virgin Suicides, which I haven't seen the movie still, but I wanted to buy for myself. And then literally just this morning I was downstairs, and then in our TV stand, my parents had the Virgin Suicides book. I will be reading this year. I'm so excited. Best morning, best find ever. But if you guys want me to do a like whole video dedicated to the books I read in 2022 and then like book goals for 2023, I think that'd be really fun. So we will see. That's all the questions. If you made it to the end of this Q&A, I'll share with you my spring schedule really quick because I haven't announced it in a video what my first spring semester this year is. So I'm taking Eastern Asian literature class, which I'm a little scared for because I feel like that's gonna be a lot of work. My film classes, I'm taking Sight and Sound filmmaking, which is just like the standard filmmaking. I'm taking preparing the screenplay, and then history of editing, which I'm really excited about that class. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, I do get a lot of questions about like application deadlines and what's needed to apply to NYU, and I get those ones a lot, but just trust me, just Google it, it'll come up right away. If you have any questions, comment them down below and I'll try to answer them. I do also get a lot of DMs about people asking me to read their college essays, which I'm very flattered about, but I'm not a college counselor. So thank you guys so much for watching, and if you watched all the way, this was a really long video. Comment a flower emoji and I'll respond with one. Goodbye. Hope this was helpful. See you later, besties.